Goodbye, Earth. I hate you. I really do. I really do. I believe in Mars future, actually, where greenmangaming.com is our website, because green men don't come from Earth. Head down to the description below. Hello, audience! Here. So, it is 6:04 p.m. on November the 28th. Wildstar died an hour ago. So now I'm trying to distract myself with work. Good news is, we have a decent playthrough going through right now with World End Economica. And the thing about World End Economica is that it has moon girls. So, hopefully this will be a good distraction. Anyway, as I opened the frosted glass door, the woman watching the television placed near the ceiling with her hands resting in her arms propped up on the counter, lowered her glance listlessly. While I was overcome with the urge to just shut the door and go to another store, the woman raised her voice before I got the chance. Table for one. That's a lot of A's. The kitchen was run by the silent, stubborn, elderly husband of the family, so he never showed any signs of affection. Of course, no reply came from the kitchen. Even so, it was too late to leave, so I entered the store with a heavy gate and set up camp in the corner seat. While mountains of hydrocarbons sat at the moon's poles, they still couldn't be used for luxuries such as making plastic. I think those chairs are made of wood, though. As a result, most of the store's equipment was made from either wood or iron. Both could be gathered on the moon and were easily decomposable by microbes when thrown away. Sorry, did you just say wood can be gathered on the moon? Okay. Empire Earth specifically made a new type of tree for their Art of Conquest expansion when going to Mars. Now granted, the carbon crystals in that game were weird, but at least they weren't trees. An iron cup was placed with a clang on my tattered wooden table, which was no doubt found in a dump somewhere. The woman, beaming, then poured me water from high up. The water seemed like it should splash out, but it all stayed in the now perfectly filled cup at that. You showed up, you delinquent. Delinquent, dyeing your hair pink. Crab omelet over fried rice. I made my order bluntly without a proper reply. I didn't even look at her. The woman was about 20 years old and had bright silky hair. She had been working here for a while and seemed to know a lot of the customers, so she probably lived in the area. One crab fried. The woman yelled cheerfully towards the kitchen. I almost said chicken. Then, of all things she could have done, she sat down across from me. Oh, good. Except her body was off to the side and her vision was fixed on the TV. She seemed interested in some plot point in the drama she was watching. It's her soap opera. Even in the super future, Grey's Anatomy is somehow still on the air. Why do people keep watching it? I heard that actor there is in the area right now. He's going to negotiate his next title and bask in space, and at the same time, a beautiful actress from around here is accompanying him. Yeah, I've been meaning to ask about the moon dome, actually. What's the engineering logistics of a dome this size? I'm actually very interested in that. Glass is not in tremendous abundance unless we were somehow able to manufacture it moonside. And another thing, glass is too heavy. It's also not durable enough for the micrometeorites that may impact the dome. I'm curious about the science of this. Unless we somehow manage to figure out a way to mass-produce transparent aluminum. That would work. I didn't ask, but she informed me anyway. I ended up glancing at the screen as I silently took my PC out of my bag. He's a little too handsome, though. While that might be true, I stifled my urge to reply with a "so what" as I placed my PC on the table and switched it on. We get Wi-Fi in this place? I think the dome would come with free Wi-Fi. That's the thing with like moon colonies and stuff. They would have Wi-Fi up there. We have a satellite orbiting the moon right now that has better connection speeds than most libraries. I'm serious! The freaking International Space Station has Wi-Fi. It's crazy! The PC was loaded up with financial information and charts of historical prices for the 4,000 stocks on the Lunar Stock Exchange. 4,000 doesn't sound like... Alexa, how many stocks are on the New York Stock Exchange?
There are 2,598 New York Stock Exchange stocks.
Wait, so there are fewer stocks on Earth than there are on the moon right now? You learn something new every day. In order to make a profit tomorrow, I had to find my next targets. Want to use our power? I raised my glance after being asked a question and found my eyes meeting the woman's. She had beautiful almond-shaped eyes that were... Those are not almond-shaped. That were even brighter in color than her hair. That's not... Are we talking about the same person? She might have led an easy life, I thought to myself. Nevertheless, it'd be helpful if I could use the restaurant's electricity, even if I did decide to go back to that half-ass net cafe. The rates were cheaper at night. The problem was, my battery might not last until then. I silently took out my adapter and plugged it into the cord that the woman, still seated, had lazily dragged my way with her foot. Lazily. So, I'd say skillfully. If you could just move cords around with your foot, but with shoes on? As I hugged the ground in order to plug my adapter into the outlet, the woman mischievously twitched the toes in her Oh. As sandals. See, because then you can grab the cord between your toes. Perv. That was what she said to me once I raised my head, but she wasn't even wearing a skirt. And I don't even have a foot fetish, so I don't know what's going on. Naturally, I ignored it and booted up my PC. After that, the woman stopped messing with me, and the only sound in the restaurant were the filtered voices from the television and the swinging pots in the kitchen. So wait, you're telling me that you actually turned the sound on for the TV in here? Most places just give you the frickin' subtitles. And most of that is sports anyway, so there's someone on a frickin' teleprompter trying to update that crap in real time. So it's super slow. I don't know. I don't know who they get to do that job, but they do not pay them enough money. That was a quiet area without much food traffic, and it felt like time passed slowly here. The thing that made me go far out of my way to come here, other than the fact that they wouldn't report me to the cops, was this tranquility. What did you eat yesterday? Well, it was pretty tranquil until the woman suddenly asked me a question. What did I eat yesterday? I was working yesterday, so I ate a sandwich. What did what I had to eat yesterday have anything to do with you? I ignored her as I stared at my screen, but she wouldn't stop looking at me. Her face, visible from the corner of my eye, didn't make it look like she was particularly interested in the question, but she wouldn't turn away. Defeated, I raised my glance, and at that moment, she grinned. Pasta. Pasta. I answered, then turned back to my screen. I updated my data while I was in the cafe, so I searched for any corporate news that might affect the market in the next few days. From where? If I tell you the dumpster, will you please go away? As I clicked my tongue, the woman's smile, as expected, disappeared. Is that what it's called? Clicking your tongue? Oh my god, I've been calling it something different my whole life. She didn't get mad or stand up, though. That doesn't suit you, you know. She said this quite seriously, then instead of getting mad, I ended up blushing. She treated me like a complete child. Probably because there's like, what, a 4-year age difference and you're younger? It's something like that. Big Bull Cafe. So let me get this straight. There's a cafe on the moon called Big Bull Cafe. That sounds like a load of bullshit. Because no one would name the cafe that, not even on Earth. It was an arrogantly named place for a nearly illegal Oh, it's a front. So it is a big pile of bullshit. You see, bulls were symbols of strong markets. For that reason, there are bronze bulls placed in front of the biggest financial districts in the world, like America's Wall Street or Hong Kong's stock exchange. It's true. I just looked it up. There are pictures of it. Look up Stock Exchange Bronze Bull. So for me, the place was good luck. Huh. So, Sirolt's handmade pasta. Sirolt? Wasn't there a real skinny guy there? The guy owns the place. Owns the... I was a little heartbroken at those words. I was sure that he was some loser who worked there by the hour. But to be the owner of a store, big or small, was a fine example of a capitalist. Not only that, I was heartbroken to hear that I was eating his pasta. I mean, it was good. I taught him how to make those. Oh, good. Great. The woman beamed with pride. Wait, if she taught him, then... where did they know each other from? Don't tell me they used to be lovers. As I dreamed up juicy scenarios in my head, I stared vacantly at her face as she turned back to the television. And you're back to the TV. So, was that lunch? Dinner? Eh? Did you eat that for lunch or dinner? Both? I didn't have the slightest idea as to why she was asking for all those details. It was probably because of some stupid made-for-woman horoscope that she watched every day. I bet it was something like, if you ask a boy you meet today what and where he ate for each meal yesterday, your lucky color is yellow, and your lucky word is optimism. Okay. Dinner. What about lunch? Lunch is overrated. You don't need lunch. You can snack all day and it cancels that out. You grab a bag of chips every now and then. Like, throughout the course of the day, like, subside yourself on like 3 bags of chips and maybe a bottle of water or 2. 1.5, maybe. They cancel each other out. I had set out to click my tongue, but after being told how do you stop yourself from clicking your tongue halfway through? But after being told straight-faced that it didn't suit me, I ended up holding back. The woman might have noticed this fact because she was grinning slightly. I answered her after telling her in my mind to shut up. I didn't need it. Really? This time, I didn't keep myself from clicking my tongue, or from getting angry, for that matter. Why she wanted to know these things in such detail completely baffled me. Okay, that's not a lot of detail. She's asked you maybe a total of 5 questions. One of those 5 questions was, do you want to charge your laptop? And why do you care? Right as I turned her question around on her, a plate of fried rice hit the counter with a thud. The woman stood up and brought the plate over. Then, right as I thought she was going to place it on the table, she kept the plate in her hand and looked down at me. You really didn't eat anything for lunch? As if to show her that I was trying my hardest not to click my tongue, I started to scrape my upper lip with my teeth. No, I didn't. I don't eat lunch on weekdays. Well, so weekends are fine? What about today? Today is an exception since I was driven out of the cafe at a weird time. So what? Anyways, give me my food that you're holding there. Eating a proper lunch was something special to me since I usually only did it on Sundays when the Lunar Stock Exchange was closed. Eating lunch on a weekday was rare. Oh, so that's what's going on here. As I glared at the woman, she heaved a small sigh and placed the plate on the table, completely unperturbed. Fucking words. The smell of the sweet and sour sauce whetted my appetite. My interest shifted from the now strangely annoying woman's question to the food in front of me. You need to eat 3 real meals a day. The woman talked to me while standing and staring at me, digging into the fried rice. And eat a little more neatly. Don't tell me what to do. You're not the boss. Mind your own business, I muttered mentally as I piled a mountain of fried rice and crab omelet on my spoon and shoved it all in my mouth. The woman sighed and then returned listlessly to her counterside chair. What a cryptic, stupid woman. I focused on my food, stuffing my stomach with such vigor that I barely had the time to even sigh. And then everything went black. After filling my stomach with fried rice, I ordered the, I'm not even gonna try with that something jelly. A sweet and sour gelatinous dish. It was usually it was unusual. I'm having a bad day to see this dessert around here, but it was definitely delicious, if a little expensive. Since today was a cursed day, I thought that it might be just the exorcism I needed. You've got the money, right? The woman doubted me after I made my order, but of course I had enough money to have a regular meal. You could rent a cheap apartment for 400 mules a month, so I could live on my own pretty easily. The reason I actually couldn't was because there weren't any places of mine or with no guarantor. Guarantor. Can't you just say guardian? Jesus Christ. I would have known what you meant if you said guardian. I heard that on Earth, people in my situation were sometimes able to make it happen. Unfortunately, lunar cities were only accessible via orbital elevator, and so everyone's identity was known. That is a load of bollocks, and it sounds like the lunar government is trying to control the populace. This would never happen on Mars. If I went to rent a house, they'd immediately run my fingerprints and an iris scan and then contact my parents. What do they care? Unless you were an extraterrestrial, if you're on the moon, they know who you are and where you came from. Look, moonborn people, or as I'm going to call them, lunarians, if you get that reference, praise be, Lord, to the anime gods. You are a good person because you know what anime that's from. I would think they'd keep an eye on the people who are lunar-born more than people who are actually Earth-born. Damn Earthers. Have I ever stiffed you? Just because you've paid in the past doesn't mean that you're sure to pay next time. And anyway, you ran away from home, right? You need to take better care of your money. I felt a strange sense of comfort in the fact that her lecture wasn't about my running away itself. And overall, I agreed with the idea that people should take care of their money. Sure. You don't have to tell me that. Oh, really? The woman shrugged, then carried the ayu jelly from the counter where it had just appeared. It was hard to argue with her since I was, in fact, wasting money here, but I was confident that I had more money than anyone else my age. What's more, I'd never gone on a wild spending spree before. The magic of compound interest made the world go round. If 1 mool today turned into 10 in a year, then 3 years after that, it'd be 10,000. 100. No, he's right. But by the mathematics of basic multiplication, that is the pattern. Unless the value of the mool drops suddenly with an increase in the number of mools actually in circulation. That's how money values work. Compare that to what my dad... Okay, I'll say it because it's at the top of my head. You can't fix the debt crisis by printing more money, Trump. That's not how money works. This guy runs a business! Compared to what my dad would make in his entire life, earning roughly the same amount every month from sweating in the fields to grow vegetables, in 5 years there'd be no way I'd be eating in a lame restaurant like this. That woman might be making fun of me now, but I'll bet I'd eventually be wearing a stylish suit and living in a high-rise apartment in Newton City. And of course, I was not going to stop there. That wasn't where my dream ended. It's where it began. If you're some rich actor, you might be able to bask in space on the opposite side of the moon with some beautiful woman by your side. But if you were one of the wealthiest here in this lunar city, you could go even further. You could make all the emotions and desires you feel when you look up at space come true. I ate the sweet, sour clump of ayu jelly, and as I looked at my screen to choose the tree that would grow me money, I was immersed in a familiar daydream. This place was the forefront of humanity, a golden city of wealth and prosperity. I would run through the city gates. I'd outwit the geniuses and prodigies from Earth and take my place there at last. I silently got myself worked up during this quiet early afternoon in a Chinese restaurant. I moved my touch mouse back and forth, and just as I brought up the display for the prominent, even on the moon, investment bank E.J. Rockberg, customers entered the store. I thought it was strange that customers would come in at this hour and raised my head. At that moment, a feeling ran throughout my body like an ice cube had just been stuck up my asshole. Well, that's one way to do it. It's the cops! Quick, eat the drugs! 2, please. Yes, sir. Table for 2. The woman said this in her usual carefree voice, but the words barely entered my ear. I lowered my cap even farther over my eyes and hunched over, trying to hide the reflection of my PC display. Looking at their clothes, it was unmistakable. The pair who had just arrived at the table were on the other side of the restaurant, were police officers on patrol. I'll get the the what? Okay, they both ordered the same thing. Okay, yes, tension. Tension, because that's what's going on right now. It seemed like they just chose this place randomly during their patrol, but who likes eating in the same restaurant as cops? Not only that, I think these two were the ones who were at the Big Bull Cafe, according to my faint memory. The patrol route for the police didn't include going into cafes, so someone had to have tipped them off somehow. I was not some sort of invisible man, so someone surely must have seen me hanging around a weird place at a weird time. Whoever that someone was, if they told the police that there was a shady-looking kid around, there'd only be a handful of places they'd search. Someone ratted me out. It was Phil, wasn't it? The rat bastard. It was totally possible that those two were looking for me. That might also be the reason that the policeman facing me was glancing at me now and then. But to think that he'd take off and lead us in this wild goose chase. The policeman with his back to me suddenly spoke up. The cop looking at me waited a moment before replying to his partner. Well, it was just some big shots looking at maps all day who decided how wide our area of jurisdiction was to be, and there wasn't any public survey system in the area either. But I think that if he were hiding somewhere, it wouldn't have been in that net joint. The storekeeper there was a pretty sketchy-looking guy, too. Maybe we should grab him and rough him up a little. Don't judge by appearances. He ended up having a pretty impressive history, didn't he? Okay, it is entirely possible that they're looking for someone else, and that better be the case, otherwise we're screwed. I have over $10,000 worth of moon money. Yeah, I guess, man, I should have studied harder at the academy. I never thought I'd be assigned to the boonies like this. Location has nothing to do with it. You just need to carry out your duties. You're very right about that. So they really were looking for someone. But the owner, that Sarald guy, had an impressive history I couldn't even begin to imagine. What do we do after this? If we go by the book, we'd start the usual thing with questioning people. His coworker, facing me, took a sip of water and went quiet, as if in thought. I got the feeling that he was taking a good hard look at me. In my mind, I was praying that they gave up on the questioning and just went back to their nest. If we call in for reinforcements, we're just going to get laughed at. Looks like we've got no choice. Anyway, our duty is to keep public order. Cracks in public safety begin in the smallest of places. Even if it's just one boy, we can't let him get away. My heart felt it might jump right out of my mouth. We're dead, aren't we? Now there was no mistake. They were tipped off by someone and they were out looking for me. Lunar cities were nuts about keeping public order. Even in the Red Valley, where suspicious guys wandered the streets, there was not even the faintest trace of any real danger. It was just a degenerate pleasure-seeking town. Everyone knew how risky committing an act of physical violence was in a place that small. After all, if you were deported by residential management court, there'd be no question that you'd never be able to come back. The only people exempt from that form of punishment were people who were born on the moon. Even then, if you committed second-degree murder or worse, it was not so certain. Of course, it wouldn't be subject to the penal code just because I ran away from home, but the overall zeal for maintaining public order would mean that I'd be sent back home. Oh, well, we can't have that now, can we? We'll just have to kill both of them. We have a gun, right? Guns are legal on the moon? Or did they finally crack down on gun control? Then I get Japan has like a 13-step process for buying a gun. It's a long and tedious process, and it would make a really good plot for an anime. I'm just saying. After that, I'd probably be forced to report back to a local facility every day until I became an adult. While that happened, I'd grow further and further away from the front line of the world and would eventually be swallowed up by the masses. I fixed my darting eyes on my hands and thought desperately, how should I escape from here? If I grabbed my PC and ran, the plug would get in the way. Do I unplug the adapter from my PC, then take off running with just the unit? My identity could be given away by the adapter, but it was still better than being captured. You could buy a new adapter. Or should I stay still right here and wait for them to leave? I'd like to do that if it's possible, but that officer staring at me seemed like it was about to stand up and shout, "Hey, you," to me at any moment. My cold sweat dripped onto my keyboard. Wait, that woman wouldn't have ratted me out, would she? As I thought of this possibility, I was tortured by a desperate rage, but suddenly a shadow appeared on the table. It was that woman. More water? Yes, please. She poured me a refill. I cursed her in my heart, wishing that she wouldn't draw their attention towards me at a time like this, and lowered my face was totally flush. But a piece of paper with words written on it was attached to the side of the cup she clinked down onto the table. Get ready. What? I nearly raised my head, but the woman quickly left my table before I could make the mistake. I set my computer to mute and shut it down so that they didn't notice that my OS was no longer running. I'll give up on the adapter. I quietly pulled the cord out of the main unit and confirmed the location of my bag. I already used the money I always kept in my jacket pocket at the cafe, so I'll use what I had in my back pocket. There was a line in an old Earth Mafia movie that I saw at home that said that a $10 bill kept in your clothes was a business card to God. It certainly kept you well prepared. I quietly placed the 10 bill by my hand, perked up my ears, and waited for the right timing. The policeman had been staring at me non-stop. He was definitely suspicious of me. With a clang, the policeman started to get up. Tension up. Yes, tension is up. Tension is very high right now. At that very moment, the tension on was placed on the counter loudly. What's wrong? The cop called out to his partner, who was now halfway out of his seat. Is it the guy behind me? Right after he said this, the woman's voice rang energetically throughout the room. Thanks for waiting. Here's your tension on. Oh, yeah. The one with his back to me turned his attention back to the food. The other one was looking at me, but because the woman was standing next to his corner seat, he was stuck in his seat and couldn't get out. Now was the moment. The woman looked at me. It was my only chance. I pulled my hat over my face, closed my PC with my head still down, grabbed it, and then shoved it into my bag. The payment's on the table. I said this as quietly as possible and left the 10 bill on the table. Hey, you, wait. No, there will be no waiting. Why would I wait? That's terrible life advice. The officer clearly told me to stop, but I just gave him a sideways glance and walked quickly towards the exit. It was only a distance of 3 steps, but it felt like forever. The yelling officer attempted to chase after me, but with the woman in his way, he couldn't get out. Oh, am I in your way? The shrill scream came from the woman who lost her balance after being pushed by the officer. She turned to the other officer, still sitting in his chair, and the piping hot tension on looked like it was about to spoil. Acting out of natural self-defense, the officer caught the bowl in his hands. By that time, I had successfully exited the store. I took off running, as if nothing else in the world mattered. Yeah, then what happened? Where am I? I spoke to myself out loud to make sure that I wasn't in a dream. My throat was dry, though, so it was hard to speak. Thanks for reminding me that my throat's goddamn dry, you jerk. Ugh. I cleared my throat a few times and took a deep breath. I hadn't the foggiest how I got here. After I left that store, I ran for my life towards the narrowest street I could find. I thought the police would be right behind me if I looked back, so I did nothing but run forward, not looking back a single time. After that, I must have found a handy-looking tunnel to hide in and then fallen asleep inside it. The pain throughout my body must have been from sleeping in the same position the entire time. Is this a sewer? Yes, child, you are in a sewer. In general, any place made out of the moon's unique limestone was a public facility. This place also had a cool, rough limestone floor, as well as matching walls. Between that and the sounds of running water, this place had to be a sewer. We decontaminated all this limestone before we brought it in, right? 'Cause, you know, solar radiation. Right then, I noticed the slight glow around me. Is that from the exit? It seemed like I was nearly passed out, and while I had no idea how long I'd been asleep, it must be night by now. The fact that the lamps were lit made me certain of it. Slowly and carefully I began to walk. Suddenly the road turned into a dead end. Is there sound right now? Yes. God, that's like when we have to turn that crap up in Signal Simulator because it's too quiet. I could see a light source on the other side of the wall that I now faced, which was even taller than me. Exclamation points! I let out a quick gasp because it looked as though something on the ceiling had moved. But the only thing there was strangely wavering lights and shadows. Like a small bug attracted to the light, I took my bag off and climbed the wall. Then, when I saw what was on the other side of the wall, I let out a much bigger gasp. It was 1,000,000 policemen! Holy... Before me was a huge, spacious atrium. I was near the top part of the atrium and could see more passages on the opposite and right sides. However, the most amazing part was the waterway passing through the base of the atrium. Clear water flowed through it like a gentle rapids, and most of the sound of water must have originated here. The bottom of the reservoir glowed a bluish color. Occasionally a fish would move, and its shadow on the ceiling would swim as well. Well, this is an interesting place we've found ourselves in. How'd you manage to accidentally find yourself here? As I gazed at this scene, amazed the places like this existed on the moon, I suddenly heard a rustling sound behind me. 3 exclamation points! As I turned back in surprise, I forgot that I was balancing on top of a wall. I immediately lost my balance and fell on my butt. Ow! All of a sudden, we can't say all of the sudden. I saw a pitch black figure in front of me, rifling through my bag. Hey, what are you doing? Not only had my life's wages and labor gone into that PC, but it also carried the 1 billion mool dream that I knew I was going to make it a reality. My body moved before I even had time to think, and I tackled the figure. I threw myself at the shadow, covering its face with my left hand and aiming for its throat with my right. It was a technique that an immigrant from Earth taught me when I was growing up in a village full of muscle heads. Okay. It was an incredibly effective technique, and it had to be. It was used by someone who came from a place where a failed government was replaced by military forces who had seized the UN food supplies to be used as aid and would toss it around if they were feeding animals. Huh. Because I was looking at the light coming from the waterway, my eyes still weren't used to the darkness. No parrots. The passage was narrow, so I couldn't miss. Not only that, but my opponent was weaker than I had thought, tumbling over as soon as I connected. Right at that moment, I saw a small, plank-like object fall onto the floor. The glowing object looked like it could be some sort of computer terminal. However, I was too busy thinking about punishing this idiot who was searching through my bag. On top of the bastard's body, who was either not resisting or too surprised to, I kept my grip on their throat and balled my other hand into the tightest fist I could make. Die! I froze, my fist still overhead. Oh. Well, hello there. How can I help you today, Moon Girl? Look, I love computers and laptops as much as the next guy, but not as much as I love Moon Girls. See, Mars is where it's at, but the Moon Girls, whoa, forget about everything, guys. 'Cause Moon Girls. I raised my fist and was about to drop my iron hammer of fury. I began to speak. A woman? Right then, my vision went dark. I only realized that I had been punched in the nose after I was woken up by being shoved in the chest into the side of the wall of the passage. Hitting me out of nowhere? What's wrong with you? Tried to steal my laptop. The pitch black shadow, or rather the pitch black woman, began to speak. Alright, finally we have music, so lower the damn volume. Black hair, black eyes, black clothes, black shirt, and black shoes. I see a red door and I want it painted black. No colors anymore, I want them to turn black. I think the credits music just shows it themselves. Her ankles peeking out from the hem of her skirt were black too. Even her stockings were black. You're one of those people, aren't you? You just wear black. You wear black all the time, literally everything black, because everything matches. And you'll keep wearing black until something darker comes along. Anyway, I'm back. Where were we? Oh yeah, everything is black. So we're back in black. Dressed in black from top to bottom, her white face seemed to float in the darkness. And her red eyes. Isuna Sakura, why do your girls always have to have red eyes? She stared at me with her thin black eyes. Black eyes? Wait. Those are clearly red. As if she was staring at a bug. Her head was seething, both from the shock of being punched and my anger at the outrageous situation. What the hell? You're the one that was going through my bag. What's wrong with you? That's not true. What would you do if this broke? The girl looked around. Then, while I was still sitting, she reached out her arms and grabbed the plank-sized device that fell earlier. She brushed away the dirt and began to use it, probably to see if it still worked. But anyway, what kind of mental... Did you mean to say mentality? Oh, no, wait, that doesn't mean mentality. Mentality is a weirdly spelled word in my mind. Where are we at with the recording time with this? I just started a new clip so I can check that. Alright, we're doing pretty okay. What kind of mentality would lead someone to verbally attack me after hitting me? This is why I hated women. Oh, you're one of those people. You can't appreciate moon girls. I'm just doing this because I was asked to. Why do I have to be subjected to this? She seemed to mutter this to herself. Disheveled from the fall, she gathered her long black hair into a bundle of darkness in one hand and straightened it neatly in an instant. It looked like a cable harness. Found him. Hurry up and get here. I'm in the side passage on the top level. Still seated, the girl began to talk. The thing might also work as a communication device. Who in the world is she? Was she searching for me, or was she interested in what I was carrying? If that were the case, then I wouldn't hold back. Thankfully, I was in a dark, deserted, and hard-to-see place. I might have lost the fight just now, but if I went at her with all my strength, I know I could win. Maybe I should take some naked pictures of her and post them online once I was done. No, we're not going to do that. Why would you ever even suggest that? Okay, sexual harassment is a huge problem now. I can't imagine how big of a problem it's going to be on the moon. Or how much they're gonna crack down on that shit. Jesus Christ, just imagine by the time we're on the moon to this caliber. Just imagine how freaking bad it's gonna be. Oh my god. Turkey. With pillowy mounds of mashed potatoes. Actually, these mashed potatoes are pretty disgusting. There's tiny onions floating in a sea of gravy. Oh, With that in mind, her arrogant attitude and expression might come in handy. Right as I went to move my back off the wall, I heard a voice. I hear you. Wait 1 minute. The floor's getting complicated around here. As soon as I heard the voice, I felt the dark urge in my chest to disappear. I heard that voice before. It was the voice of the woman from the Chinese restaurant who allowed me to escape. What? Hurry up, Lisa! Lisa! The girl spoke curtly into the terminal. I felt like I'm losing brain cells just being around this guy. I feel like I was dumbfounded for a moment, then glared at the girl. Huh? The girl glanced at me, then quickly turned away. She acted as if she had heard a stray dog barking outside her window. She was clearly acting in the intolerable way that only women can, making it seem as though no insult or abuse hurled her way could possibly affect her. Tell that to the women nowadays! Jesus goddamn Christ! All entitled little pansies. Yes, I will be open about this. Jesus Christ! I'm so tired of the feminists. Oh my God. Turkey. Well, I was the type to get really angry when something I say is ignored. I was not even enough of an adult to suppress my irritation. I kept glaring at her, not caring how lame I might be looking. Still glaring at her, I pulled my bag towards me and made sure that nothing had been taken out. Nothing seemed wrong. Only there seemed to be something like a piece of dried macaroni at the bottom of my bag. It was particularly metallic, and a small green rice-sized light was flickering on and off. Around the time that I figured out that it was a homing device, much like one you'd use on a pet dog, I heard footsteps from the other side of the passage. The woman who appeared shortly after was unmistakably the one from the Chinese restaurant. While she was irritating, she also saved me. Did she sit down? So this was Lisa. Lisa, you're tearing me apart. I'm just gonna go out right out of the gate. I'm gonna say that. You are tearing me apart, Lisa. Finally found you. I told you reception is bad around here. The girl in black replied, but I found you. It took a little while, though. The woman wiped her forehead, which made her finally realize that her hair was in a mess. It was in a mess. That's not me screwing up the words. I'm amazed that you got all the way to a place like this. Were you here the whole time? While the woman talked, she took the flat device from the sitting girl. After inputting a few commands, the macaroni-shaped light in my hand stopped blinking and turned yellow. Is this a tracking device? Not answering the woman's question, I asked one back. Yep, I put it over there while you were bending over to plug in your adapter in. You were busy being charmed by my legs, so it was easy to do. That is super creepy. I wasn't charmed by anything. I shot back. This only caused the seated black-clad girl to shoot me a disdainful look over her shoulder. Well, I apologize for putting a homing device in your bag without asking. No matter what the reason, it isn't a nice thing to have happen to you. Her easily offered apology left me no room to complain. Only there was no way that someone who put a tracking device in someone else's bag could be an upstanding person. Considering this, I started to feel like her saving me at the restaurant might have been due to some ulterior motive. In any case, I was in the back corner of a deserted sewer. What I had just thought of doing in my rage to the annoying girl in the black might now be done to me. You see, geniuses and the rich were gathered in the lunar cities, and most of them could be called extremely talented. However, they often said that the line between brilliance and madness was paper thin. Yeah, just look at Look at Bial from our Ops Squad group. The guy's one freaking lab accident away from becoming a supervillain. There was no shortage of stories along the lines of mad scientists performing unspeakable experiments on a nightly basis, or of the wealthy perverts committing sickening acts one after another. You're assuming worst case scenario here, and you need to stop. I looked up at the woman, the shaking reflection from the water dimly reflecting upon her face, and grabbed my bag with one hand. I was careful enough to spread my money across different pockets, so of course I carried at least a small weapon. But regardless of gender, the woman over there was taller than me. Gravity was weak on the moon, so if you thought about it as a simple action-reaction, there wasn't much difference in her being a man and between a man and a woman's punches and kicks. Okay. In that case, it came down to either wrestling or siphoning your body in one place and slamming it into your opponent while conserving as much physical energy as possible. That was where the length of your limit made a difference. Not only that, there was someone right next to me who most certainly wasn't on my side. I recalled the atrium I had just looked into. With my leg strength, couldn't I jump over the wall all the way over to the other side? Well, yes, you could, but so could they. And I don't think you're accounting for that when you try to think up an escape plan. I don't think you accounted for that last time with the police, either. Okay, these mashed potatoes are really bad. Who made these? I want names. Like, Jesus. Freaking turkey! With pillowy mounds of mashed potatoes. Oh hey, the other video's done rendering. Or if I made sure to land in the water, wouldn't I be okay? No. Laptop's not waterproof. While my mind was worrying through the possibilities, I gulped and said the following. Why are you doing this? Was your saving me a trap? I wasn't sure if I should say that much, but before I could make a decision, the woman spoke first. The woman smiled as if she were stumped and bent her head to the side. She then continued, for fun? My back stiffened with a shudder. I had the feeling that I was going to be killed. You've got to be kidding me. I still had dreams, and I'd just barely gotten to the starting line. I stood up and suddenly put all my strength into my thigh muscles. She spoke right as my body began to fly up. But, I mean, you wouldn't want to get falsely arrested, right? Able to drain all the strength in my thighs. My body floated as I hopped lightly backwards. With a slow, gentle trajectory, my back tapped against the wall. Wait, wrongly arrested? That's right, those two officers were chasing after a boy, age 15 to 17, height around 160 centimeters, slender, black hair, black eyes, Asian features, wearing a black backpack. Okay, we've seen our character. Does he look anything like that? But isn't that him? The girl in black replied to him in this description. That's what I thought too, but after talking to them some more, I realized that it was someone else. I was slightly confused. When did I get asked that? The woman had known for a long time that I was a runaway. I'd been going in and out of that restaurant for a while, and I had met her a number of times. Running away from home as a minor was technically against the law. While it was not something you'd be punished for, it was assumed that public order would be deteriorated by jobless, penniless minors wandering the streets, and so they're cracked down on. But don't I work in the stock market? I have like $10,000 to my name. That's why the woman's words didn't make sense to me. Confused and with my back still against the wall, I heard the woman let out a small sigh and continued to talk. Those two officers weren't looking for just some runaway kid, they were after a thief. Thief? That's right, but, well, considering his MO and the circumstances, I could see how someone like you could be suspect. Hearing this, I was reminded of how persistent the woman was when it came to the most random things. And that's why you wouldn't stop asking me whether or not I had lunch. Exactly. The other day, someone sniffed a nearby restaurant on the bill. According to eyewitness, the suspect looked just like you, as usual. But, well, I didn't think that someone who would order IU jelly with a carefree, satisfied expression on his face right after gobbling up a crab fried rice would do something like that, you know? I don't know. You're not making any sense. This would probably make more sense in anime format, though. The woman giggled as she said this. Slightly miffed, I glared back at her. I wouldn't do something dirty like that over something like 10 rules. Of course not. I checked with Sirol too. Oh, and I made sure to hold your change and your adapter. Oh, thank God. That made me feel a little relieved. The adapter was especially important. If you were smart enough, you could do just about anything with an electric appliance. So most purchases required showing personal identification. If my adapter were to get returned to the police and as a lost article, they'd figured out my identity in a snap. This is why you don't purchase burner phones with a credit card. This is the one fucking guy who was running from the police purchased a burner phone with a credit, or it might have been a debit. Either way, it made it super traceable. I heard that on Earth, even a child could autonomously buy parts that could easily be made into a cutting-edge missile. Now that was a scary place. Yeah, gun control sucks here. I would have to assume in the future it sucks more, as the government becomes more and more corrupt. Jesus Christ. I have 5 emails here, and all of them are worthless. So, well, that's what's going on. You should come back to my place. I honestly could not understand what she was saying. What? What? Are you thinking of going back to that cafe? I asked Siralt, and he said that the 4 stern-looking guys are taking turns patrolling the place. It was not a result that was hard to predict. Only if that's the case, then I'd be back to sleeping on the hard ground for some deserted area. To be honest, doing that took a big toll on my body. Not being able to get a calm night's sleep was the worst part about this police patrol. As far as getting sleep, the Big Bull Cafe had a roof and running water, and if you said that you wanted to pay the premium fee, you'd get the sense of security that came with knowing that you'd be alerted if something dangerous started to go down. And how much is the premium fee? The question was whether or not that's the reason to just jump on an investigation from some suspicious woman who put tracking devices in people's bags for fun. Yeah, that's true. Even in stock trading, the too good to be true balance sheet was sometimes used to prime the pump right before a huge crash. I understand why you might be suspicious, but I just told you, right? It's like a hobby for me. Your hobbies are weird. You should get into other hobbies that aren't weird, like model trains, or video editing, or graphic design, or constructing an elaborate miniature city of log cabins. The woman told me this as I remained doubtful. Bringing runaways like me into your home was your hobby? She's either a pervert with some bizarre hobbies, or could it be my charm? I think I basically know what you're thinking, but the woman then laughed in amazement. Unfortunately for you, boys younger than me aren't my things unless they're holding giant blood-soaked scissors. Okay. What's with the blood-soaked scissors part, though? Well, then, what are you after? Is it money? As soon as I said these words, the smile disappeared from the woman's eyes. Question mark. Did she get mad just from that? Well, I had the feeling that I had already said a lot from a lot of other things that should have made her angry. I was still surprised at the sudden change. Watching my face, the woman must have realized the change in her own expression. Oh, well, I'm sorry. She spoke in a forced tone, then rubbed the area around her eyes gently with both hands. This completely disarmed and confused me. Not only that, I was faced with the grim reality of not having any place to go. The woman in front of me allowed me to escape from the restaurant, so in that sense, I owed her a lot. I then concluded that aside from the part about being a runaway, I did consider myself a decent human being, so I should probably reply with something like this. If I do end up being a burden on you, I won't be able to pay much, you know. While I had realized that she wasn't especially interested in my money, I still had enough decency to feel bad about not paying someone who took care of me. That's why I said what I said, but would she understand? As I kept staring at the woman, she finally grinned and nodded. Of course, I'll take a little for food and other costs, but it should still be a lot better than wandering around outside. Oh, and the woman continued. After all, I took care of Soralt too. Eh? Nothing you should worry about, so what will you do? There's nothing else I could do. There was only one way I could answer. Thanks. You should be more honest and just say that from the beginning. The woman continued to smile as she said that, but I told her in my head to be more reasonable. Okay then, let's go back. If it gets much later, I won't have a good excuse to give to the police. Hearing the word police, I nodded once again, recognizing the precarious situation I was in. However, while both the woman and I tried to set off, there was someone who wouldn't budge an inch. Hi. It was the girl dressed in black. Well, I wasn't sure if she was listening to my conversation with the woman or not. She had an absent-minded look on her face. What are you doing? The woman asked. It was a very pertinent question. The girl, still not answering, turned her head and stared my way. Her utterly conceited expression immediately reminded me of the irritating argument I just had with her. What? I said this to her with a voice full of anger. I knew that my remark would be ignored but she was being so upsetting that it just came out that way. As I expected, the girl then turned away snootly with all the annoying elegance of some sort of princess. Hagana, you're not trying to throw a tantrum like some child, are you? The woman used the name Hagana to refer to the girl, which reminds me of haggis, which is a disgusting food, by the way. Haggis. Look it up. Still snootly turned away, the girl called Hagana gave no reply. With this, I was roughly able to guess what was going on. The woman's inviting me to her house most likely meant that I would be living under the same roof as this obnoxious girl named Hagana. And hilarity ensues. Naturally, I was upset that I'd been openly rejected by her, but taking a step back, I suppose I could understand how Hagana felt. This put me at a bit of a loss. Should I get angry, or should I respond like an adult? Only this wasn't the time or place to dawdle. As I was about to say that I didn't mind even sleeping in the garden, she spoke first. I can't stand up. What? Hagana looked up at the woman who replied to her and continued. I can't put any strength into my hands. It's because he tackled me. So at the advent that I think I broke a woman's legs, we're actually gonna leave it off here. That is World in Economica again. And tune in next week to figure out exactly what's going on. Thanks for watching, guys! And I will see you in the next video. With more moon girls. There's 2 of them now. By this pattern, by next video, there needs to be a 3rd.